We are live.
Alrighty. We are live, Rob. I'm so excited for today's topic. Are you?
Definitely. Such an important subject that needs to be discussed.
Absolutely. So I put the picture of the Ikigai because if you think about it, like everything that we're going to talk is going to lead on how we actually create our Ikigai or think about it. So we can do a whole session on Ikigai next time. But today, I think for the purpose of what we want to really deliver is let's talk about how our belief system is formed and basically how we are able to navigate our life through this whole process.
Definitely. Sounds good.
Alrighty. So without further delay, I'm going to pull up the presentation, but let's introduce you. Robert Lewis. He is an expert resource for biohacking gadgets and has been in this health and wellness industry for about 5 years now, Rob, you would say. And before that, he comes from a very unique, different industry, which is he did solar panels and had a successful company that he sold. Before that, he had a construction company. And, like it's crazy how even your belief system was formed at a certain point, and then you had to reinvent yourself, right?
Right.
And you had to come out of that whole mindset that you had and then position yourself differently. And same with me, like being a professional who was taught to be a employee, I had to really kind of work a lot on myself on how I would form my belief system around being an entrepreneur, because unfortunately my dad did not really push me or ask me to pursue entrepreneurship, because he thought that it'd be much easier being a female if I pursued just a simple career of having a job that was high paying. And I understand, because entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Right. It's not easy. So I totally understand.
Right. And with mindset, it's something, whether you're employed, whether you work as a volunteer, whether you're an entrepreneur, healthcare professional, having the right mindset will help you in any category that you're engaged in. So it's powerful, because our lives can continue to grow and change, which we'll get into.
Absolutely. So what is our take on belief system? And we've done some research and I've read some studies, and of course, like all of that good stuff is what brings about like what we think about this whole topic. And I'm going to pull up the slideshow, but before that, I was going to say that let's put some thought into how we're born, and how the environment around us and the parents and the household makes a huge difference, right? Like, what is belief system and how is it formed is what we want to bring some light on. And we're going to put up this slideshow. Meanwhile, Rob, what are your thoughts on belief system?
So basically it starts with your family of origin, or where you were raised, where you grew up. And those first years of your life, first 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, greatly shape the way that you think and how you interact with other people, and in a large way shape your mindset. So if everyone kind of thinks back to how, when they can first remember how they were raised, their life experiences, how they learned to interact or react to other situations or people around them, just start to think back to some of those things. And as we go through these slides, it will help, it'll kind of make more sense.
So great question here. I love this slide, Rob. Fact versus belief. So what I realized is, once we have a belief system that we have formed and it becomes really strong in the neuronal pathways, where it's very ingrained in how we feel about something, it's no longer a fact, because we could be so far away from the truth.
Exactly.
And that's the scary part.
That is the biggest challenge, if people let themselves continue believing things that aren't right, or if the family of origin or how they were raised or grew up, if it's not correct, it dramatically affects the rest of your life. because you could literally be believing lies, and you can hear the truth and reject it because your mind is telling you that you're right.
Okay, so one great example, when I came to America, like you're always asked like on these things where if you're a minority or what ethnicity you are. And then a lot of times I heard like, oh, you're a minority and you can get this done, and I was like, I'm a minority? Like, how is that possible? We're 1.4 billion people in the world, and the world's population is 7 billion. So just Indians alone, I'm not even talking Asia. Asia would be almost half the world. I'm like, how am I a minority? Like, that's not a fact, but it's a belief system here that if you are not Caucasian, you're considered minority. So because I came from India and I know what kind of population we have there and how I grew up, it no longer was my belief system that I'm a minority. So I think that was really huge, because imagine if you're born here, you always felt like you were a minority, right?
Yeah,
so
and that's what you grow up understanding and hearing and believing, is that if you're a certain type of person or a certain ethnicity, that you're a minority, instead of just realizing that no, you're a human being just like everyone else, and everyone has the same
right
potential.
We're just human beings. We're emotional cucumbers. We all have the same things, which is lots of emotions. We all operate from a place of either two spots, either scarcity or abundance, either fear or love, or sometimes mixed emotions. Right. And that's all it is. That's all matters. And that's why I love working with entrepreneurs like you, because you don't see other people as genders or ethnicity. You see them for their character, their soul, their integrity, what they can bring to the world. And that's what matters to you. And that's why I love working with individuals, because I feel like I'm the same. For me, it doesn't matter. And now that's where a lot of our belief system comes in, right? Because how we grew up, what were we taught? Like your parents did a lot of missionary work. So for them, it didn't matter who, what, anything. It was more about helping people that were in need at one point, right? And you moved around a lot for that.
Right.
So
yeah. So when you, and so that's again, when you have that exposure as you're growing up, and it also, some of it is you have to reject the pressure around you, because the American society in certain regions does have mindsets that are unhealthy around some of those things. So that's where you have to kind of guard yourself, and you have to make sure you're staying on the right track, which again, we'll get into a little bit later, how to do that. But so it's important.
Absolutely. So the creation of belief system begins with humanity itself, right? Like every human has a belief system that is formed. And thousands of years ago, primates evolved consciously thinking. Human beings is what we call a cognitive revolution. So the whole human race is nothing but one consciousness, and it's a cognitive revolution where, we kind of send out signals to each other without even understanding what we are doing. Like it's crazy how the universe works. And there's so much, I would say, not understood or misunderstood. And I'm not saying by any means that I'm any expert. I'm still understanding all of it, but this topic absolutely just blows my mind and amazes me. And that's why I want to always dive deeper and deeper. And I'm always educating myself like you. So how are the belief system formed? Let's talk about that a little bit and give our audience a little insight on that. Early childhood, right? Religion you were born into, or how your parents either are around or not, or nurture you. So our core belief around love and security are usually formed by the time that we're about 4 years. So that's why they say that the first 5 years of a child's growth is the building block of how they're going to perform as an adult. And these two areas are absolutely necessary for survival. And at the end of the day, we're just all animals, right? Like survival instincts are so important. We aren't loved and cared for enough, and we aren't safe, then we instinctively know that we can die. And that's how we get into survival mode. Right. And sometimes it might not even have much to do with what is the fact. It's just how your belief system was formed in the first 5 years of your existence. Can you believe that?
It's crazy. And that's the thing, like your love and security. So if in your first 5 years, if you don't have the right type of love and nurturing and security, that can create patterns as we're looking at. As you go through life, you can start to have reactions, and certain things will trigger you to react a certain way because you have that from your past. Of course, the good news is there's ways to grow out of that, but it's good to be conscious. And that's why I said early on to think back to how you were raised and how your lifestyle was growing up as a child, because all of these things connect back to that.
Absolutely. So would you say between you and me, we had the common factor that our moms were homemakers and they were available when we needed them?
Yes.
And we never felt like we weren't cared for or safe.
Right, 100%.
Yeah, because my mom was a working mom from home. She owned business that she ran just out of our household, and that's where she always was there. So imagine kids who don't get their mother. Like in America, we have this culture where we get like what, like 4 weeks, 6 weeks max, that you have to prove a disability to stay longer with your child. And when I came to America and I saw the culture, I was like, how am I ever going to have a child like this? Like, if I'm a working mom, how am I going to go back to working full time, leaving a child that's literally 4 or 6 weeks old and just put it in the hands of daycare or nanny? I'm like, no, this is not happening. And that's why I started working towards building my business. Because again, my belief system came into play where I believe that a mother should be there for the child because I had that. So my belief system is so ingrained. And, it's the same for you. That's why you provided for your kids and had the opportunity for your spouse to stay home, and you worked hard so you could provide for your family, right?
Right. And that was very important for me, for my children to have a good environment growing up, to have that security, to not have to worry about finances, not have to worry about if they're going to have food to eat. And then just to have a good, enjoyable environment to grow up in. So
yeah,
that is, for me, that is a very high priority.
So none of it is logical. It's more about how incidences occurred over and over and how you felt in that moment and how your neuronal pathways got pretty stubborn about it. Right. So
again,
that's
because depending on how you're raised and what the environment is that you're raised in, it changes the way you think about it as you go through life. So then you're going to be making modifications or adjustments and reacting to things that happen based on the way that you're raised. So that's your whole outlook and perspective is based on that.
Yeah, and then things change, different belief systems can be reformed, but a lot of people struggle to kind of work on what is hardwired in them. And that's where we can really talk about some of the cool, amazing tools that we use. And we could talk more on the next episode about this. But I wanted to bring in this example where kind of opens up your mind to a lot of aspects. Is like, if there's a child needing attention and is not given proper love and care or that sense of security when they're young, of course you don't want to overdo it either, but definitely you want to be there. So the child starts thinking that, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. Your emotions in the crib, your age of 1, and then the event of no one coming to pick you up is just automatically, if that happens over and over, you feel like you have a whole conclusion that you're not lovable.
Right.
Now, what happens when you're an adult? You get into toxic relationships over and over. Why? Because you have concluded in your mind that you're not lovable. You should be just treated horribly by someone. And it all plays into a factor where why a lot of adults are dysfunctional, right?
Right. And it also,
Um,
it's not only in relationships, it carries over into your occupation as well. Because if you're working in an employment situation, you might settle for a not very good, shall we
toxic
say, toxic
employer.
work situation, or you, if, well, we'll get into changing your mindset, but basically you could end up settling for much less than what you should be.
Absolutely. So, you know, our subconscious is pretty much 90% of how we operate. And what you see on the tip, which is the 10%, is nothing but like stemming from the 90%. And it's literally the tip of the iceberg. And we don't even know what's going on. And all of these factors play a huge role. So that's why, like, a lot of personal experiences where we keep moving forward and come out of things is because we have a strong belief system that things shouldn't be this way, right? But a lot of people don't, because they were raised in a survival mode. And you know, even same thing with as you said, like, you know, employer or in the places that you kind of work, even relationships is the same as teenager. You know, if you had like really bad hiccups where you have people, like you have crushes and they don't like you back, or don't get asked for prom, you automatically start feeling like you're not lovable, and then that belief system from childhood is now confirmed and becomes hardwired. Or if you had a different belief system, then you wouldn't take that as a fact, you just kind of keep hustling through it because you just feel like it was just a phase, like, okay, whatever.
Right. And so what's interesting that you bring that up and you're tying it kind of like into relationships. I've also seen business professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, and they basically stopped at a certain level of maturity, and so they'll be interacting with other professionals, and they'll get offended about simple little things that weren't even intended to be something bad, but it's because they're reacting internally to something from their past. So it's just interesting to see.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter where you are. You can be an executive and you can still have some of these subconscious things that affect your behavior. And that's
Absolutely.
why.
And
Oh, go ahead.
no, like I wanted to bring that up because I have done that professionally sometimes. And then I think back on why I did that with one of the business person I work with. And then I have to apologize that, you know, I have worked on my pathways and I have figured out where it stemmed from. And I'm ready to work on that, because a lot of these business relationships are long term. You know, you have to work with people years and years. So you're right about that. And I have been guilty of it. And the best thing is being aware, being awoke about it, basically. Right. So the majority of our belief system are naturally updated and changed as we go through life. We learn how to walk, ride a bike, tie our shoes, learn to read, drive a car, get a job. But most of the belief system work for us in a positive way and help us navigate through the life, but not always. Most of it does. However, when a belief system is formed and early and with strong emotions, it can remain unchanged in the subconscious until such time as it's consciously changed. And that's where we can play a huge role for our audience. It's these beliefs.
So good.
Well, I was just pretty much finishing this, but go ahead and don't lose your thought.
So yeah, the thing I was thinking about is the first sentence: the majority of our belief systems are naturally updated and changed as we go through life. So each one of us has the choice. You can either have the mindset that the way you are is 100% right. You're not going to change for anything. You know everything, and you basically block out your potential to continue to grow. Versus if you have a growth mindset and your mind is open to learning new things, and you put yourself with the right groups of people and with the right material in front of you, and you have the right types of tools to help you grow, you will continue to grow, and your belief systems get better and better as you grow through life. So it's really a growth mindset is also part of your mindset from childhood. But the good news is, no matter where you are, no matter where I am, I can continue to grow, and I can choose to move in the right direction.
Absolutely. So here's something that I want to share from a personal story. My mom, growing up, she spent a lot of time with her aunt who lost their son to accident, and that was her only son. So my mom grew up in Mumbai with her aunt, and they had hardwired in her so much about driving that my mom has never driven in her
Wow.
life. And it became so ingrained that she couldn't change it because she might have not even worked on it. um we tried a lot. She's licensed to drive, but she's never driven. But you know what she did? Because she realized and she was aware that this has happened to her, she got me my license when I, like, it was literally like 16. I was 16 years old, and I was driving a four-wheeler car around in India. That's huge. Like, people don't even have two-wheelers at that age. So that's what she did to me. Was she, everything that she was hardwired to not being able to perform, she didn't work on herself, but she started working on me. And that's where like a lot of my liberation came. But it's so funny how life works. It's just insane how we can be so wrapped around and not coming out of that survival mode. So why don't we talk about reprogramming the brain, because we've now educated everyone on what is belief system, how it's formed, how it's affecting us professionally, personally, in entrepreneurships. And there's some amazing tools that I have been introduced to. Well, very thanks to you. Before that, I was just using simple meditations, and they are hard to stay in sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, like I struggle too, and it's a lot of work. Your mind wanders, but then after you've introduced me to this amazing tool that I've been like, now making it a part of my life, I am just absolutely I would say, like, I don't even have words. I'm blown away what it's gonna bring to my career. And
It's
why don't we
it's life
talk about
changing.
that?
It's transformational. And so I'm excited to be able to share that on our next
Episode.
webinar.
Yeah, so you see the pathways here. That's how we have strong pathways that get built. And every time we think, feel, or do something, we either, strengthen that pathway that's well traveled, and then our brain finds it easy to do. And that's it's nothing but comfort zones. And why do we keep eating the same meal all the time? Because we just know how it tastes, and we quickly go through the whole thing and like, oh, let's just get that salad, or let's just get that pasta, right?
So
We're not
that's
very
the
open.
interesting thing is the strong pathways, and these are habits that we have incorporated in our life. And I like this image because it shows kind of a visual representation in your brain. But it's the strong pathways are the paths of least resistance, because it's already in our head, it's already working. We already know, okay, we can go eat this meal, we can go hang out with these people, and it just feels good because we're used to it. And that's where you have to take your conscious mind and think about, okay, where do I want to be going forward? What do I want to grow into? And then some of the neural pathways that are the path of least resistance right now, you can reprogram your mind by having the right mindset, associating with the right people, integrating some of these wellness tools. So it's very exciting, because even though you may have these neural pathways that are very strong right now, they can be changed, and all of us can continue to grow and to enhance our lives and enhance our health.
Absolutely. And that's the exciting part, that technology can really change things for human race, and on the good side, not always have to be on the dark side. So that's what we want to use and put everything together for our audience. So why don't we continue with next episode, where we talk about these tools and how it has helped us and hundreds of others, that we have studies that we can bring together, and then talk about how to pretty much do a lot of NLP for yourself. That's what it is.
Right. And the nice thing is, like, a lot of folks pay they'll pay a clinician or a doctor for some of these tools. They'll go into the clinic and they'll have these sessions. All the things that we work with, you can do from the comfort of your own home. So it's super exciting. You can change your life without having to interact with professionals or, you know, clinicians. You can do it in the comfort of your home, and the transformation is immediate and it's cumulative over time. So it's super exciting when you get into it and you can experience it. And so we can't wait to share that with you on the next episode.
Absolutely. So until next time, namaste, everyone. And it was such a pleasure having you, Rob. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. So we'll bring you know, mind-blowing episode again on how to actually now rewire your neuronal pathways, right?